guys, Katarina. Welcome back to my channel. As you saw by today's title, we're going to be talking about epilepsy today. And the reason being is that I am an epileptic. I have been an epileptic since the age of 17, 6 months after a serious car accident, and I did sustain a head injury. I had my first seizure. And at that time, they diagnosed it as grand mal epilepsy. They don't call it that anymore. The proper name is a tonic-clonic epileptic, which is, in a nutshell, generalized seizures that affect the entire body. There are different kinds of epilepsy, and some only include certain parts of the brain. So mine includes all of it. So those are the people that have seizures will fall down on the floor and convulse completely, and sometimes quite violently. And that's what I do. Now, it has been a journey. I am not going to tell you that it has been a walk in the park. It has taken me many, many years to be at peace with it and just accept that it's a part of my life. I have been on 3 different medications. Initially, I was on a medication called Dilantin. That was the first medicine they put me on, and I did not respond to that well at all. I had gone on vacation with my parents and my brothers to a cottage. I don't even know if it was for a week or 2 weeks. And I have no memory of that vacation. I do remember sitting on the end of the dock, looking down at the water and thinking to myself, all I have to do is push off the end and all of this will be over. And when I had shared that with my family, they knew there was a problem. And I can't even explain to you how we got to medication number 2. All I knew is that it just was a bad scene all around. They were very concerned that I was obviously experiencing some kind of suicidal tendency, and they weren't sure if it was the depression from, this new way of life that I had to live now, or if it was a reaction to the medication. My second medication that I was put on was one called Tegretol. And I was on Tegretol for many, many years. Up until, I think 05. Yeah, 2005. And I was having a lot of problems with it throughout my time on it. I experienced a lot of headaches, and I was very clumsy, which is one of the side effects. And near the end, it was getting a little bit much. So the medication that they put me on now is one called Epival, which I have to look, what is the proper name for that? Valproic acid. And I've been on that since 2005 and does the trick. Truth be told, I would say that this medication has been the best fit, because I don't know, I feel more like myself. And ultimately, that's what you want. The medication is there to serve a purpose, but you don't want it to be changing who you are, And let's see. I guess we'll start when I had my first seizure. Being that I was a teenager and you're already awkward and you are so trying to figure out who you are as a person. When I was diagnosed, I had um, a horrible time accepting that this was going to be my reality forever. Um, there was an incredible lack of motivation on my part to fight. I fell into a depression that I stayed in for a very long time, because I felt broken. Who was going to love me broken? And looking back on it, I thought, I can't even believe that that's how I thought, but I did. Because the thing with having seizures is that it's something that I'm not aware of. You know, like I wake up from one and I have the physical pain, but when you look at all the people that are around you when it happens and their faces, especially if you happen to have them around people that love you and you see the fear in their eyes, it's devastating. And when you're 17 years old, you know, you don't always know how to process that. I was married to someone later on, in my first marriage, that I'm sure he meant well, but he didn't really understand that it's not something that I could control. That's a big misconception, that if you rest enough and you are healthy enough, and if you do things enough, that this isn't going to happen anymore, this ugly thing that you do. And for a lot of years I felt like I was putting people out, that I was inconveniencing them. And I carried that guilt for a long time. I never thought that I was ever going to have children, because the first neurologist that I had went to was not exactly the warm and fuzzy type. And he sat me down, looked at my tests and said, well, you're a grand mal epileptic. You have to take your medication. The medication you're on, you can't have children, and you're just going to have to accept this is your life now. I was 17. So at 17 years old, I had this man tell me basically my life was over. All of my hopes and dreams, all of the things that I wanted to do, it was done. He was wrong. When I was in my early 20s, I did have my son. And yeah, my marriage didn't work out, but hey. I drove my last vehicle, I think I was 27, and I voluntarily gave up my license because I did have a seizure behind the wheel of a car, and thank God I never hurt anybody. I was the only one that was hurt. And I said to myself, this will never happen again. I have not driven since, and I'm 48 now, and still don't regret it. Um, you know, it kind of makes you, you know, think outside the box. I walk a lot more, ride my bike, you know, take public transit, taxis, you know. People think that their independence is their car. And I don't know, I think independence is relative. You know, it's not stopped my life. See, that's the big misconception is epilepsy is not your life. It's a part of you, but it's not who you are. I am so much more than that. I don't introduce myself to people and say, "Hey, I'm Katerina and I'm an epileptic." That's not how it is. You know, it doesn't stop me from living my life. You can't let it rule your life, or you will never grow as a person. You know, I've had people that have witnessed my seizures say to me, you know, well, you need to rest and you shouldn't be so stressed out, and you know, what's going to happen if, you know, you have one on the street, or, and it's like, I'm going to fall down and probably, you know, hurt myself, but God willing, I'll wake up and I will move forward. You know, like, you can't put yourself in a bubble and stop life. You have to live. You know, there's too many things I want to do. There's too many things I want to see. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let this stop me. You know, it is what it is. You know, it is serious. Yes, when it happens. It is a concern. It does affect how people treat you sometimes, but at the same time, it's also a great tool for weeding out people that are probably not worth you knowing anyway. You know, I guess in a nutshell, if you want to know what it's like living with this, it keeps you humble and it keeps you strong. You don't have to stop your life. If anything, having epilepsy makes you push harder to live it. Because the fact remains, you get one go round in this world. And if you stopped your life for every little thing that comes up that's inconvenient, or, you know, every little ache and pain and sickness or disorder, you'd never live. And there's too many beautiful things in this world to see. So, if any of you are watching and you are living with epilepsy, I promise you, there's a life to be lived. And you live it as full as you can. Because every day, we all have to wake up and put one foot in front of the other, just like everybody else. This is not something that you should stop